All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Your IT as a Business Journey. My name is Ashley Limbers, and I'll be your moderator. I'm the marketing coordinator here at Total Computer Solutions, and I'm excited to be hosting this session today. Total Computer Solutions is a full-service provider of IT support and services, including network security, cloud computing, network administration, and managed backup services in Central North Carolina. I'm pleased to introduce today's speaker, Matt Manise. Matt is our business consultant at Total Computer Solutions. He has consulted across several industries since 2013, most relating to IT in some capacity. Matt helps TCS clients translate critical business issues into IT solutions for industry growth and success. He got his undergrad from Penn State and his graduate degree from UNCG. Before I hand the mic over to Matt, I have a few housekeeping items to cover about this presentation and the Zoom platform. First, today's webinar will be available on demand after the live session and will be emailed to you afterwards. Next, we would love to hear from you during today's presentation. If you have a question for our speaker, please feel free to type them into the question box in your Zoom control panel. We'll be answering questions at the end of the session. If we don't get to your questions during today's webinar, we'll be sure to follow up afterwards. And last, we'd like to encourage you to give us feedback on today's webinar. You will see a link in your browser when the webinar ends. So without further ado, I'd like to kick things off by welcoming our business consultant, Matt Manise. Matt, over to you.
Thank you, Ashley. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Thanks for joining us for Your IT as a Business Journey, how to choose a partner. My name is Matt McNeese, a business consultant with Total Computer Solutions here in Triad, Greensboro, North Carolina. On today's virtual presentation, we're going to try to identify with IT problems and try to think about them from a business perspective. Perhaps understand how business consulting is an integral part to your IT business journey. Certainly much beyond just the technical side. We want to have a strategic partner that can, but it's okay, that can guide you through this journey. So today's presentation, everyone, it's not going to be overly technical in any way. What it's going to be is about key points that would you would want to think about in order to choose a partner that go beyond the technical side. So I'd ask you to think about the technical side as a prerequisite to having a partner. Certainly any IT partner should be able to wield and use with a certain amount of expertise the technical products and services available to any of us out there in our business communities. What is a differentiator, though, and what this presentation is about, is that choosing a partner to use those particular technological tools is such an integral part due to several reasons that we'll talk about today. And so as we begin, and really those reasons, those key points are going to have everything to do with your company growth, company wellness. So in opening, I would ask you to think about two analogies. Think about a patient seeking help from a doctor, a patient who is diagnosed and has taken an active role in their health, versus one who shows up looking to be told what to do. Now, in this case, your business would be the patient, and the active role you could take is the business side of IT. In other words, the active role you can take is knowing not everything about the technology, because certainly my advice to you as an IT business consultant isn't to go and get a further degree in computer science. My advice is to understand how to partner with someone that can translate what's best for your business from a strategic standpoint into long-term company growth. So in that case, taking care of your own health and wellness means being informed about the strategic side of your IT. Secondly, think about an analogy for sports training. Certainly with sports being back on television now and it being on your mind, think about an athlete who is trained thoroughly versus one who simply thinks that willpower might work. In this analogy, training thoroughly would be what you want for your business as opposed to just willing it. So we will talk in this presentation too about how technology isn't just something that you throw money at, something that just works in and of itself. It has to be strategically implemented for your own industry and for your own critical business issues in your company. Because your business can be an example of wellness and fitness, something that will separate you from the competition, you can capitalize on your IT strategy. Yeah, an IT strategy really is a prerequisite as well. We need to get one if we don't have one. An IT strategy that directly connects with your company's success, especially over a 5-year period. I want to let you know that we have impeccable research you will see later in the presentation that is about a 5-year return on investment for computerization. Because IT products and services are only the tools we use, you need a partner who effectively deploys the tools. Again, think of that. Think of the analogies between the patient and the athlete. Also, communication is invaluable. Talk about that as well. Things are very complex and changing, and the more you devote to staying on top of an additional profession like computer science, the less time you would have to spend on your industry. So again, the recommendation here as an IT business consultant for you today is to stay on top of your business and the strategic goals that can separate you from your competition, that can help you grow over a long period, 5 to 7 years, as opposed to using any time at all to further your own knowledge necessarily of IT. And I realize that can sound a little bit ironic, because as an IT business consultant, I get to know a lot about IT. I mean, I work with very smart people who are, work on all kinds of technology problems for all kinds of businesses. However, it is the strategic link between the technology that's available and your particular business that research shows will make the difference, and that we see makes a difference for clients all the time. Business consulting has become the main skill set for an IT partner. So as you're looking for an IT partner, know that you can expect consulting to be part of it. You should ask, my opinion, you should ask for strategic goals. You should ask for strategic timelines. You should be able to plan ahead, just like you would plan ahead for your own industry growth, for your own particular company. So I'll share with you an actual business model that we have in place later in the presentation that's designed to help those who have an IT partner have the support and structure they need behind them, different than having to do everything internally. At the end of the presentation, we'll kind of arrive at the choices you have about your own IT journey, insourcing, outsourcing, a combination of both. And many of you on this webinar now, I'm sure you're very well aware of it because you've been dealing with for quite a while. So let's see how this relates to your business, organizations, entities, all of you attending. And if you wanted to be actively involved and really be kind of where I'm trying to go with us here today, you could maybe think about and make notes in the way that technology impacts your day-to-day work. A list of things, or just thinking about things, how that you get involved in IT, maybe the things that you don't necessarily want to get involved in, and how you feel when you're devoting time to technology in your workplace. So a lengthy introduction there, but I wanted to kind of give an overview of everywhere we are going today. Let me move forward, please, because we do have 4 key points to today's presentation. I've mentioned them already, but just to be absolutely clear, number 1, IT effectively connects with company growth. This is the part of the presentation that we're going to get to next, where I share with you some compelling research done by some really smart people who show that investment in computerization in your company separates you from the competition, particularly over a 5 to 7 year period. Second key point, IT products and services are only a prerequisite part to having a managed service provider. On your IT journey and in selecting a partner, you should know that products and services definitely come along with it. How those products and services are used will make all the difference. Number 3, solutions are complex, but they always stem from a traceable source. So what we mean by that is, and what we'll talk about, is that your particular business, your particular industry is going to have very complex problems, but IT in general can trace down very specific and traceable sources for those problems, use technology to solve those critical business issues that are so complex. And finally, number 4, our final key point of the day, not all managed service providers have business consulting. So again, as I've already said, and I just want to underline and highlight as much as possible, expect business consulting if you are expecting to show the 5 to 7 year tremendous gains in the computerization of your company or entity. The difference to business consulting being then just more of a break and fix model. So do not expect the gains that we're going to talk about as we move on to our first key point here, if you are not expecting also business consulting. Okay? First key point, IT effectively connects with your company growth. Very clearly, your investment in IT will lead to bottom line company growth. I want to just think about this, just pause for a moment in general, because this is where I really have research to share with you that is eye-opening. The amount of money you put into your company regarding IT will lead to company growth. Caveat is, though, that it must be strategic. So it's a strategic investment in IT that leads to company growth. The other caveat is it's not going to happen overnight. So you will not get a return on the amount of money you spend on the computerization of your company, maybe in the first few months of the first year. We work with several clients. As an IT business consultant, I wanted just to give you an idea that of the breadth that we work with. So I'm telling you that your particular industry or particular challenges using technology, that you need to be able to translate those challenges to your own particular industry in order to separate yourself from the competition, or even just to, let's say, not to be so competitive about it, let's say to grow your company, to meet your goals. An example in the legal industry we have up here. An example from food and beverage. Clearly two totally different industries, but both must use technology in order to be successful. Both must invest strategically in technology to be successful. A manufacturing steel company, likewise, just like legal industry, just like food and beverage service industry, steel manufacturing, just like your industry, just like any industry, must have a strategic investment in IT that's best for your particular company or entity to yield long-term growth. Let's get to some of the heady part of the presentation here. So I have a picture of a book here called The Second Machine Age, and it's a book that we read here so that you don't have to read it. But it's not overly complicated stuff. This actually was on the New York Times bestseller list a few years ago. But I bring it up because we live in a time when computerization of everything is occurring, and there's simply no choice about it. I think about a favorite outdoor company that I'm a customer of. I like to get outdoors on the weekend. Get out there into nature and just it's one of the ways that I unwind and enjoy myself. But what I'm saying is I'm a customer of a particular outdoors company, and this outdoors company, I think they're great, but they're an outdoors company, and so they have very little to do with technology, we would think. However, the reason I'm a customer is because they are so good at providing me a customer experience through technology that otherwise I never even would have heard of them. So think about just if the computerization of outdoorsmanship or bushcraft or just the outdoor life has occurred, think about how it's absolutely occurred more than likely in your industry as well. And I don't know, maybe there's an industry out there that doesn't have computerization yet, but certainly doesn't seem like there are any left. So in the second machine age, we are in the computerization of everything. And these really smart folks that wrote it, they're both from MIT, I believe. When I reviewed this book, when I read this book last year, it led me to the deeper research that I'm going to share with you next. And that deeper research is the actual mathematics behind, pardon me for that, the actual mathematics behind the return on investment, computerization of your company over a 5 to 7 year period. So this general book led me to other stuff. Here comes the more complicated stuff. This is the actual paper here. Certainly you can go find computing productivity firm level evidence. Online, you can find an abstract and you find the full journal article, but I'd like to just kind of extrapolate it from a moment, read you this quotation. Computerization contributes to measured productivity and output growth in the short term that is consistent with normal returns. So the amount of money you put into computers in the short term, computerization, I don't mean just computers, I mean the computerization of your company using IT. The amount that you put into will be consistent with normal returns over the short term, a year. However, the productivity and output contributions associated with computerization are up to 5 times greater over long periods. By long periods here, we define as 5 to 7 years. So the amount of money amount of strategic money that you're putting into your company can yield up to 5 times greater over a 5 to 7 year period. So just imagine, I mean, just using simple business consultant math, that every $1,000 you were putting into your company this year, if you were strategic about it, it was worth $5,000 to $7,000 in 5 years. Certainly those, certainly I know there are business-minded folks on the webinar here today, and you understand that'd be one of the greatest ROIs you could get for your business or entity. So it's not just throwing money at it. You see how I'm really emphasizing today that we must be strategic about that money that we're putting in. But here, staying with the deep research here, 5-year investing period for computerization. Again, and I should say, if you are mathematically minded, go find this article online. I have the we have the citation for you right there at the bottom. You would very much enjoy it. It's beyond my level of math that I've ever accrued, but it has the complicated math and everything they used for it. But again, to extrapolate out the main point we're making, over longer time horizons, between 3 to 7 years, computerization is associated with an output contribution that is substantially greater than the factor share of computers alone, between 2 and 5 times as much as the short run impact. So we're talking again about being able to put money into a certain, I don't even want to call it a side of your business, into a certain way of doing business, or just into smart business in order to yield the returns that you can get over 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years through computerization. I recognize that just having the money to do it is one thing as well. So this gets us to, and some clients I would meet with, this gets us to maybe some bottom line, budgetary concerns as part of our IT strategy over the short, medium, and long term. But as a budgetary issue over the long term, plus a strategy over the long term, it will yield these kind of results here. So I encourage you to take a deeper look into that, and feel free to reach out if you want to have more discussions about this particular economics behind the computerization. It's fascinating, and the study ran very deep, and it's a very well-respected study. We're now going to take a moment for a poll question. How much time do you spend on technology? Choices here being once a week, hour a day, too much, or I like messing with my technology. So I'll give you a moment to think about that. Choose your questions. Ashley is in control of the results there, right here behind us here in our conference room facilities. Question is down there, and we have our results back for the question. It looks like there's an equal amount between how we spend our time on technology. I'm not seeing anyone say, I like messing with my technology. Maybe that's an interesting result to the poll question here. We put that in there just as a kind of way to further our point here. Of course, we don't necessarily want you just having to mess around with your technology. Now, if you love technology, this is not a presentation to encourage you in getting a computer science degree and furthering your understanding of computer science. But if this is if your goal is to focus on your particular business, that's kind of how we're angling it here. So please don't mean any disrespect toward computer science. Again, we are working with people here that are excellent at that very subject, devoted their lives to it, and are able to work with clients to get us where we need to be with technology and our particular business. After the poll question, let's move on to our second key point. Getting on to my next slide here. And getting past the poll question. Once we get to after our poll question here, we'll be talking about a particular model that we use in order to get to know your business. So for those of us that want to focus on our own particular business and move on with IT, we have created a certain methodology, a certain organization, a way of organizing IT partnership so that we can best serve clients who are partnering with us in order to grow their own business. Having a partner, an IT partner who lets you know about IT, pardon me for the typo there, as it relates to your business, aids your growth. It's a big thought there, and the essential point remains the same. It's that IT products and services are only one part of having a partner in your IT. An IT company that understands how to use IT helps you grow. What we mean by this, how to use IT, how to take the particular products and services that are available to all of us and to make those particular products and services, to choose, first of all, the particular products and services right for you, and then to wield them in such a way to get the most out of your business productivity. So you can imagine, as an IT business consultant, excuse me, I face all the time a certain attitude that is, hey, all IT companies are the same. Well, that is true insofar as IT companies can use similar tools and technologies. It is untrue in that those tools and technologies are used the same way. You maybe have heard the old philosophy quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson, if you remember back to your American Lit classes, that it's not words used, but how you use them. Well, similarly with IT, it's not the tools you use, but how you use them. And so I would be in a position where I would be, say, meeting with IT committees for companies that maybe believe that all IT companies are the same because they haven't had that strategic component. But once you have that strategic component, you see the tools are the mere prerequisite to how we want to use, how we want to help your business grow over the short, medium, and long term. Remembering the research we just discussed, the period about 5 to 7 years really is where we want to have a strategy focused for that particular growth and that particular return on investment for the computerization budget that you have, for the computerization of all things that is occurring. We're organized, and this is a picture of all of our faces here with a Teams model. So we have virtual CIOs and client success managers who have teams working with them for particular clients. And then these teams actually talk back and forth together. So there's a coordination effort to make sure that all IT knowledge is transferred, not to be over specialized, but transferred so that there would be a proper spread of the amount of IT knowledge for your particular company happening at all times. So imagine having a partner that can operate as a virtual CIO with a virtual team of analysts behind them at any moment that basically never takes vacations, and because there's just so many parts available and so much knowledge spread, that's always there. So since IT products and services are only one essential part of having a managed service provider, you have the opportunity to get an IT company that knows IT is about your business. You can focus on your business. I have a question for you. What list of problems, challenges do you encounter during your workday that involve technology? Think about time spent discussing technology, time spent wondering about technology, time spent with technology that maybe is underutilized. These are all examples of potentially frustrating and time-wasting situations involving your technology that communication can solve and that strategy can solve. And so imagine if I'm speaking with a company about their IT strategy, and that company's opinion is very rigidly based on price. Well, there is nothing wrong with making sure you're getting, a great price for your money in any aspect of your business. And certainly, I understand the profit and loss of all operation sides of businesses, and it is absolutely key. But when we look at a technology partner, and with all partners, I'm sure they may have ways of describing this with their particular partnership. But in IT in particular, I would encourage you to think about a whole cost economic look. Think about the way that IT is affecting not just that bottom line amount the cost is not just that bottom line amount you're paying, monthly or quarterly or per visitor, however you're organized, however you've decided to be organized. But the whole cost economics of it being, how much is that you are paying or not paying per month, leading to paying or not paying down the road. And again, take that 5 to 7 years down the road. So what can we pay now? What kind of IT excellence can we create? What kind of strategy can we put in place in order to receive that 5 to 7 year high, five times return on investment computerization of our company, that high yield profit return of growth? Your main point we're trying to make here is your IT guide does not sell you an IT product. Your IT guide gets the products and services that are best for your growth. So, I feel like, and I want to be really repeating this and highlighting and underlining, because let's look at the slide here. You have a technology budget. Start with, what is your technology budget? Okay, well, it's X. What's your long-term plan? Okay, that's a lot more fun to think about. That's the vision, that's our company growth. And then a key question, how will you stay informed so you can have a long-term plan? So unless you yourself are an IT analyst and expert, and we exist so that companies don't have to do that, of course, we know you have a technology budget, or we know that we have a solution that requires you to have a technology budget. We know that you want long-term plans in place, but the key is staying informed so that long-term plan can remain in place, adapt, and change. Anyone that doesn't think technology is changing, I mean, all of us know that now. There's something called Moore's Law that shows that technology redoubles in on a year or two. I mean, imagine the pace that things have changed just with our iPhone over the last five to 10 years. But staying informed so that long-term plan can remain intact, can remain possible, can remain a functioning reality of that technology budget that starts it all. As you think about your strategy as well, do know that computer companies are organized in different ways. I shared with you that picture of our teams model, in which managers have multi-industry accounts, analysts share thoughts on what they're seeing, coordinators and admin staff see real-time problems solved, cross-company meetings keep companies on cutting edge. I mean, this is all to get away from a single point of accountability, of course, so that there's many minds that are able to share in on your particular industry, and it also is a way to save a lot of money, so you don't have to bring all this in internally. At the end of the presentation, again, as I said before, we'll get back to your choices on how to create your long-term IT strategy, make sure it's intact. It's true that your computer problems are more complex than products. This slide almost overwhelms me as I look at it, because there I am in putting myself in the place of IT business consultant meetings again, and it can seem almost overwhelming, IT problems, when we talk about them in terms of the actual computer science of them. And anytime I'm in a meeting where I feel like I need to, this is going to sound strange, but when I'm in a meeting where I feel like I need to know more about computers, I know that, okay, maybe we need to talk about these problems in terms of the particular business industry as opposed to the computing problems, because it can be very overwhelming to talk about cutting edge computer science as it relates to your business. Your business has simpler problems, key critical business issues that can be made simpler through the implementation of products that will require long-term strategic planning. I'm going to move on to our third point of the day, our third key point. It's all about capital C, communication. This slide could just say communication. I would tell you that oftentimes as an IT business consultant, I feel like what I am presenting, what I am offering about that which I'm developing business about, that which I'm selling, essentially is a communication model, because communication is key. Solutions are complex, but they always have traceable sources that can be solved through communication. A frustrated IT committee that has me there for a consultation, oftentimes I feel like we turn the topic of discussion back to communication. And I find that there's a real longing for communication. Now, this makes perfect sense. Not only is everything always changing, and therefore it's easy for things to get overwhelming, but we are dealing with computers, so we are dealing with a language that many of us often don't understand. So frustration levels can get very high, even if problems are solvable. Things can seem so complicated and convoluting because we don't necessarily speak the language of computer science, just like we wouldn't speak, all of us, French or German or Japanese, except for a few select perhaps in business meetings. It seems so overwhelming because one has to know all about that particular branch just to solve that particular branch of computer science just to solve the problems. Whereas translating it back then, communicating seems to lessen everyone's anxiety, seems to allow us to focus on our own business growth, which is the reason why I would be consulting with a company anyway, why we would be consulting in any way. It'd be to focus on your particular business growth, your particular challenges, as I hope we are being persuasive here today, particularly over your business growth over a 5 to 7 period based on a budget that it remains strategic. As we communicate, we can know that infrastructure can be assessed and measured. So your particular infrastructure models, your particular ways of organizing your information technology, in this case, become key to your long-term strategic planning. What we want to do is plan. You want to gain a partner. As you search for an IT partner, you want to gain a partner who can provide you with a long-term roadmap. A roadmap that you would be trying to use to, as we say here, outshine your competitors to basically remain healthy. Again, not to even be so cutthroat about it and think that you are trying to, dominate your competitors through technology. I think another way to think about it is, since we are in the computerization of all things age, this investment in your company, just like in your competitor's company, is indeed happening. So every company is investing in technology. But what we think is the differentiator is the companies that have a long-term roadmap will be the ones that rise above their competitions that remain healthy. And of course, the research, as we shared earlier, is completely in line with our way of thinking, our way of organizing ourselves as a managed service partner for clients, because we are so focused on the long term, and we do want to create a solution together with you that involves long-term strategic planning. This gets me squarely to my final key point of the day, which is that not all managed service providers have business consulting. This is why they say that technology is about business consulting and not about products and services the more we progress as an industry ourselves. So we have to become business consultants and not just product providers if we are to help if we are to guide others on their IT journey, other businesses and entities on their IT journey. A key to this is translating from technical to practical. So a joke I make that usually gets laughs about 50% of the times at business meetings is that I'm able to translate from techie back to English and English back to techie, and that is kind of a joke, but it's a serious joke as well. So because of our team's model, I and us and our virtual CIOs and analysts, we are constantly attempting to understand business issues from a simple English-speaking way, and then have the expertise to apply the technology we would need without having to talk technology, so that, and I really am fond of this particular picture here, so that we are both on the same side of the table. This is the goal of everything. This is all smiles, thumbs up. Everyone's happy to be at work when the technology meetings come around, because the technology provider, the managed service provider, the managed service partner is on the same side of the table as you, operating as a virtual CIO or success manager within your particular company. It is when it is a kind of back and forth argument or grappling, a gnashing of technology versus critical business issues for your company, that things begin frustrated. We won't show the alternate picture here, but that's a thumbs down, and people are frowning. Or trying to leave the meeting early. But in this case, figuring out how to get someone on your side of the table is highly recommended for your IT committees and your IT buying parties and those who are in charge of your IT partner decisions. It's highly recommended that this be your goal, to get someone who you can trust to be on the same side of the table as you. So, technology being a long-term critical business issue, where we use tools and services to solve problems with your particular business. that involves communication, means having a long-term plan for your business. And here is where we want to talk about the 4 choices insofar as we can see it as a managed service provider for you here. And 4 choices you have for your plan. You have 4 choices. The first of which in gray is doing this on your own. Now, this is for a certain company size, means that you would bring in your own CIO, hire your own intern, begin to develop things internally. Do this on your own. This is for a smaller company that wants to just become an expert in technology themselves. So this is where you would devote X amount of hours and time to handling your own IT each week. You would, even though, let's say you were running a dental practice, you would also be the person that makes sure the computer printers and everything are fixed, and you troubleshoot, and in essence are kind of running your own little help desk within your own company. That is not recommended unless you love technology. Hire an IT staff internally. Hiring an IT staff internally, this means, just as it sounds, of course, this is where you insource this, and there's a lot of budgetary information for you out there if you want to plan this. There's a lot of reading and planning to do in order to get your own CIO in-house and get your own team of analysts, or however you want to scale it up. In blue there is bring on a partner. This is where we operate as a partner, an outsourced partner for all IT for small and medium-sized companies. So this means that you don't have to do it on your own. You don't have to hire anyone, but you can have a partner that operates as your virtual CIO, where you can outsource it 100% in effect. You just have to get to the point where you can bring someone on your side of the table, and it can be a trusting relationship. So we have to focus on communication. We have to get to know your business. We have to take these consultative steps in order for you to feel like you have a partner who's on your side of the table. That's how the option in blue works really well. And then the option in purple, the final option in the bottom right, is to do a combination of. So oftentimes a partner can work with an internal IT point person, maybe an IT analyst that's working for your company, and can offer augmented support. These is kind of squaring the complexity of it. These would be the general, just 4 general choices you would have about it. Totally square about it, but you will fall into one of those blocks. So your company's progress and prosperity is taking place in a time where brilliant technologies are part of your daily work. They are complicated, but they are manageable. We take the time to talk to each business to get to know their critical business issues, because it is in a strategic partnership where you are able to best choose a managed service provider. Now we've arrived. If there are any questions or discussions, please, from anyone out there. Hope that it was very informative. We look forward to any questions you have about it.
All right, it looks like we do have a question. What is the next step if we're looking for IT services?
Very good, yes. The key question, of course, what to do next if you're looking for IT services. Now, it depends on where you are, which one of those boxes you fall into, but certainly you can expect to find an initial consultative meeting you can expect to happen free of charge. You can expect an MSP to discuss with you your business in a consultative manner in an opening IT consulting meeting as a standard business appointment. And certainly that's the way we'd operate here. So if and as we follow up together, we would have an initial consultative meeting that would be needs-based and perhaps even solution-based. And perhaps getting to know some solutions you have used in the past, certainly getting to know your IT journey as has occurred up to that point. Now, after that initial consultation, which hopefully builds some of that trust, which we need to get to in order to be on the same side of the table, that's when you begin to spend money, because the next step is to really have your network assessed, to have a fresh set of eyes on your network. So you can expect to spend, a few $1,000s to have a network assessed, depending on the size of your network. And it's at that point then that we really have to begin the challenge of translating that, what's going on with the IT side of your business into your critical business issues, because we would know as an MSP, then as a managed service provider for you at that point, what kind of condition you're in and what steps we're going to recommend. And we can begin at that point then to specifically recommend short, medium, and long-term IT strategies for you. But for the long-term ones, begin to get in accord with what gets you that great return on your investment for that 5 to 7 year period and beyond.
All right, looks like we have another question. How much does something like this cost?
Well, the assessment itself, a few $1,000s probably to begin. And again, the initial consultative meeting, you should expect IT companies to provide that for free. Now, it's all going to be about the size of your company, of course, and the number of users you have. So ideally, what we would want to do is enter into a situation, once there is that trust, where you're able to use a managed service provider such as us to deploy a virtual CIO and manager for you and to serve all of the users independently in your company. So if you have 30 computer users across your company or 70 computer users across your company, you should expect to have a certain budget per user that would go to the outsourced managed service partner.
All right, great, thank you. Anything else that you wanted to cover today, Matt?
Just want to thank everyone for attending today. And I, of course, want to say thank you to Ashley. She is instrumental in putting all this together. I hope the presentation came across great. And I just hope that, our main recommendation to be very strategic about what you get out of an IT partner comes across for you today.
All right, great, thank you. And if you'd like to send us any questions, you can do so at info@tcsusa.com. Follow us on social media or visit our website. Thanks for being here today, and we'll see you guys next time.